Chava Tel Aviv. It's against war criminals, people that are sending my friends and your relatives to bomb civilians. This is the punishment against these people, and no one holds them accountable. No one. Not the United States of America, that is completely against, for example, now, international committee to investigate the action of my squadron. No one. And the problem is not Israel. The problem is the United States of America.
Yes.
I just want to answer the things about the boycott and the strategy of boycott. I didn't understand, JJ, if you are against, for example, the boycotting of the South Africa apartheid. If you were in favor or not. But regarding the argument that you mentioned, the boycott of Cuba by the United States is an act of violence. Is part of the violent strategy and violent foreign policy of the United States of America. Boycotting Gaza by Israel and the United States and other European countries is act of violence as part of the oppression, is part of the occupation. The boycotting of the boycotter, the boycotting of Israel and all these military companies is an act of non-violence in order to get rid of the ongoing distortion, an ongoing violation of human rights. This is completely the opposite. So you cannot even compare it. And I really think that the idea of supporting the boycott or not, and all this strategy, it's not a question of intellectual arguments. It's come from identity search, self-reflection, and getting rid from all these tribal fears that we all have. And I'll just give you an example. A few months ago, I was in a debate that was in Vermont. On the side of the BDS was Omar Baraguti, one of the leaders of the BDS movement. And on the side of against the BDS was a Peace Now member from Montreal, Professor Stephen Sheinberg. At the end of this long conversation, I went to Sheinberg and presented myself and said, Professor Sheinberg, so what do you think? What do you suggest us to do? What are we going to do? And he told me quietly, Jonathan, if in a couple of years, and it was about a year ago, Obama would not make it and not force Israel to stop the occupation, I'll join you. And I think this is a good answer because the question is how much time would pass until even you guys and J Street will join the BDS movement. It's a question of how many acts of criminality Israel will engage in. It's all about how we feel as Jews threatened from this existent problem that we all have. Once we overcome it, we can flourish together in 1, 2, 3, 5 states when everyone are equal. And don't do me to live in a place that you don't want to live in. You don't want to live in an ethnocratic state. So why do you tell me as an Israeli that I have to live there like that? And I'll just say one last thing regarding the cultural boycott. Recently the Pixies canceled their performance in Israel. As a result, by the way, not by what always people say, Palestinian pressure and threats. It's mostly because Israelis, Palestinians and internationals send many letters calling them to join the BDS. And it's us, Israelis, who were part of this initiative to ask them not to come. And I want to explain how it worked. Briefly. The idea is that we have a bell. It's like an alarm clock. First, personally, in 2003, I, with my friend, wanted to wake up the Israeli society to understand that Israeli pilots are being sent to assassinate families and send missiles to cars and in the middle of Palestinian cities. So we created this pilot's letter. We tried to ring the bell and wake up people. People threw the bell, threw the alarm clock, and just destroyed us, punished us, excluded us, treated us traitors. Then came another group of Sayeret Matkal, of this special commando that refused, again, tried to wake up, to ring this bell and wake up the Israeli society. They had the same thing. Then came the Geneva Agreement, Geneva Accord that tried to also create something that will shake the political system and wake up the Israeli society, they were also treated as Poshei Oslo and criminals. And now, the Israeli public is sleeping. When the Israeli public is waking up, when the Tixi and Elvis Costello do not come. So we have to tell Elvis Costello, thank you, because you actually help us to wake up the Israeli society. This is the brief of me.
Thank you. All right. I think JJ, as a panelist, wanted a point of privilege to just a sentence of correction or something, and then.
Yeah, the idea that I was opposed to sanctions against South Africa is a little bit offensive.
No, he said he didn't know
I
if
asked.
you were.
I just asked.
Yeah, I don't know if you are. I don't know whether you're still beating your wife.
No, I just asked a question.
Okay.
Are you in favor of suicide bombers blowing up buses in Tel Aviv?
All right, we
Of
don't.
course not.
No, of course not.
Okay.
All right.
That's about as fair a question.
All right.
I just wanted to add, JJ reminded, it was JJ's recollection that
It's a cheap
that
shot.
Barghouti is a supporter of BDS, and JJ reminded me and wrote down on his notes that Barghouti is a student at Tel Aviv University that is hardly boycotting Israel.
Okay.
Wait, can I respond to that?
No, actually, no one can respond anymore. We've
someone
got to
ask me that
respect.
question
I'm
so I
sorry.
can respond to
I'm
it?
sorry. We've got to respect this very crowded and
Good.
patient room.
Good for
It's
you.
standing room only, and there's obviously all of us could talk for hours. I'm now going to really challenge everyone to try to speak in a haiku, a very long haiku rather than a short essay, because we really want to get the mic around, and I also am going to try to get a little bit of a balance gender-wise and in terms of politics, in terms of who speaks. So how is this, is the mic going to be carried around, or what's, people will just speak loudly. And Jane right here is going to tell you when you're over your 1 minute. I worry that people can't get up, so you don't feel like you have to get to the mic, just speak loudly and I'll repeat your question if need be. Okay. No, you don't have to get to the mic. I think it's too crowded. Udi. I'm going to take a few comments and then we'll give some responses. Yes.
Hi, I really didn't feel I have to add more to Hannah. Hey! I know to scream in demonstration. So, the reason I'm here, I think that Jonathan and Hannah said whatever I want to say, but I'm one of the initiative of the Toronto Declaration. So I have really two responses. First, it's not Vanessa signed on it, and Martin Sherman that wrote it already apologized to me to what he wrote. They didn't know that the initiatives are Israeli filmmakers from Tel Aviv. They didn't know that the people who demonstrate against Gaza, it's us who support the boycott. And in Toronto, it wasn't a boycott. It was a call not to celebrate and not to use Tel Aviv to rebrand Israel as a liberal place. The New York Review of Book didn't publish my answer because this is part of the American discourse, even though I'm the initiative of it, and it called the elementary My Dear Schnabel, because he's the one who signed, and he's the one who knows that Palestinians cannot make films, not cannot show film. When he shot his Palestinian film, the headquarters was in Tel Aviv, because Palestine is totally under apartheid, because there is no Palestine, there's occupation territories. Now, the reason I joined the boycott, it's not to end the occupation. I joined the boycott because from 1948, the Palestinian citizens of Israel are under apartheid. From 1948, the states of Israel are taking, and that's my father is responsible, one of them, are taking land from one group of people that called Arabs, and give this land to another group of people who call Jews. This practice is from 1948, not from 1967. And I would end because the problem with people that speak about what you speak Geneva, Kafka wrote, the Messiah always come one day after his arrival. This is the Zionist left. Amos Oz, Aleph Bet Yeshua always support the war. After we demonstrate a week later, they said, it was a mistake. You guys, now we speak about Geneva, when today Israel just approved all the settlement that when Biden was in Israel, he said that today they approved it. And you're like, don't do anything. So don't boycott Israel. Just don't give them money.